After recently talking about proper technique in weighted dips and the topic of extended range of motion in calisthenics exercises, a question has been popping up quite a lot. Are certain exercises actually dangerous? It's true that whether it's on social media, out in public, or at the gym, there seems to be this uncontrollable urge for someone to say that exercise is dangerous anytime they get the slightest opportunity. From my perspective, as someone who posts training content online, I know that anytime I upload something that shows an exercise that even slightly looks like it might get one of those comments, or if someone's pulling off some epic feat, I can almost guarantee someone will show up to say it. It's like there's a fire and they think no one's noticed, so they feel the need to warn everyone before something tragic happens. It cracks me up when it's a video of someone who's spent years training, fighting to achieve a certain skill, and they finally pull off something superhuman, and there's that guy in the comment section going, "If you keep doing that, you are gonna get injured." I picture the person in the video reading it and saying, "Wow, I hadn't realized, good thing you warned me. I was planning to keep doing this thing I'm passionate about and have worked so hard to achieve, but now, thanks to your comment, I'll give it all up and go get a desk job as an accountant. Thanks for saving me." Now, to be fair, as content creators, we are very biased toward paying more attention to negative comments. You might get 1,000 likes, 50 positive comments, and just 2 negative ones, and those 2 are the ones that stick with you. Then when you talk about it, it feels like everyone was being negative, when really it's a tiny minority. But anyway, leaving that aside, what I really wanted to talk about today is how true it actually is that some exercises are more dangerous than others. Should we really be listening to these hypercritical comments? What about exercises like behind the neck pull-ups, deep range dips, pistol squats, Korean dips, or deadlifts? And before we move on, be super careful not to injure your fingers when typing in the code JERAI on Prosis to get 10% off your order, plus free gifts depending on how much you buy, and reward points you can redeem for even more gifts. Those metacarpal bones are delicate. Typing the code JERAI without caution could be seriously dangerous. So, are there dangerous exercises? The first truth we need to recognize is that yes, there are certain exercises that, all other things being equal, are more likely to cause injury. It doesn't matter if you are using appropriate intensity or if your technique is perfect. Some movements just have a higher risk factor than others. Take behind the neck pull-ups, for example. You are more likely to get injured doing those than standard pull-ups, simply because that position places more stress on your shoulders and neck. Even if you've got good shoulder mobility, even if you are careful, even if the intensity is appropriate, the joint is in a more vulnerable position and that increases the risk. In calisthenics, one very clear example is the supinated back lever position, which a lot of athletes use for Hefesto and advanced ring skills. Over the years, this specific position has led to a noticeable number of bicep tears, even in high-level athletes, content creators, and athletes at the world-class level. If certain exercises were more likely to cause injury, then why are all these athletes getting injured in the same way? Why these exact movements and not others? Many of them are some of the most experienced, best prepared athletes out there, with careful structured training and great joint care. And yet they still get hurt the same way. The reason is that these exercises put the biceps in a highly vulnerable position, fully lengthened and under a lot of tension. So yeah, a supinated butt lever carries a much higher risk than a pronated one, where the bicep isn't in such a stretched out, exposed state. The same thing goes for the other exercises that tend to set off alarm bells in the comments. Things like extended range dips, deadlifts, behind the neck pull-ups, and so on. These exercises do carry a higher risk of injury than their more traditional counterparts. But with that said, that brings us to the next important point. Even if an exercise has a higher inherent risk, there are several ways to counteract that. First, using appropriate intensity. Yes, deadlifts have a higher chance of causing injury, but if you use the right weight, the right rep range, and the right overall volume, you can neutralize that risk and make it very unlikely that anything will go wrong. The same goes for supinated grip exercises. They are riskier, yes, but if you do them in moderation, avoid overloading, and don't repeat them endlessly or use them in back-to-back rounds in competition, you can reduce the risk significantly. Third point is strict technique. If your form is solid, you are minimizing the extra risk that might come with a certain exercise. And finally, warm-ups, progressions and preparation. Behind the neck pull-ups might be more dangerous, but if you have worked on your shoulder mobility and flexibility, done proper warm-ups and prep sets, then you are balancing out that higher risk and making injury a lot less likely. Yeah, the guy on Instagram doing front lever with just his pinkies or planche on the back of his wrists is definitely pushing the joints, but he's probably someone who spent months or even years building up to that. He's already done a lot of work to reduce that risk. So by combining all of these elements, you can take an exercise that's potentially dangerous and turn it into a safe one. But there's still something really important to consider. Why are you doing that exercise in the first place? Now that you've got all this context, it's worth asking yourself, why are you doing these particular exercises? Then what's your reason for including it in your training? I think it's worth giving this some real thought, and only using those riskier variations if you absolutely have to. If your goal is to become a top-level calisthenics athlete, then you'll probably need to do things like Hefesto from back lever, multis, planche, and advanced ring variations. In that case, I think it's reasonable. Same thing if you are a powerlifting competitor. You have to do deadlift because they are one of the competition lifts. So in that context, it makes sense. But with behind the neck pull-ups, honestly, I can't see a solid reason to use them. They don't really offer anything you couldn't get from regular pull-ups, so it becomes a purely subjective choice. And if you decide to do them, you are choosing to take on that risk. But personally, I wouldn't recommend it. In conclusion, some exercises are more likely to cause injury due to their inherent characteristics, but if you truly need to include them in your training and you take the proper precautions, you can reduce that risk and safely make them part of your routine. If you enjoyed the video, hit like and subscribe, use the code JEDI on Prosis, and I'll see you in the next one.